Hey everybody, welcome back to the Live Ultralight Podcast powered by Outdoor Vitals. Today we have a phenomenal interview with Paul Ferraro. Before I give an introduction, if you are new to this podcast, I just wanted to remind you that this podcast is all about getting you outdoors more comfortably and more confidently. And this podcast today was really interesting. Paul is someone who has a wealth of experience, who's all about setting massive goals and then chasing those goals down in the name of a good cause. And he has some really fun stories that he shared here today. But let me do a quick intro here, and then we'll dive right into that conversation. So Paul, after a successful 30-year career in the tech industry, retired in 2014 and set his sights on walking across the United States from Virginia to California to raise money for the Navy SEAL Foundation. This 3,121-mile effort earned him recognition from both CNN and Fox News, along with many other local news outlets, as he worked to complete the journey in 2015. In addition to the walk across America, he made a trek from Ireland to Rome. That was 2,000 miles. He also walked the Camino de Santiago from France to Spain. That was a 500-mile effort, in which he's actually headed back to do again this year. And he claims, though, that his most challenging walk of his life was from Miami to Key West, which was only 140 miles, and which we do cover in this podcast because that was quite interesting too. But today we'll talk about all these kinds of trips and a whole lot more. So the interview was awesome. There's going to be some awesome takeaways, but also there's just a lot of inspiration in what he's doing, both for himself and for this foundation that he's supporting. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right into this interview. Hey, Paul, well, I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today. And I wanted to just start off by asking you, of all of these hikes and walks that you have done, you stated that your hardest hike was actually the shortest one I have on my list here, 140 miles in 3 days from Miami to Key West. What happened on that hike?
So I had just finished doing the United States and I was exhausted. I spent quite a bit of time trying to rehab, and I had a bad walk across the United States. And a retired Navy SEAL who had just finished with his cancer treatments decided he wanted to do it. And he called the foundation and said, I need some help on fundraising. And they said, oh, let me give you this guy's name. And he just finished the United States, and he called me up. I met him, and I was like, you know what? I'll do it with you, which was a big mistake because we did it in 3 days, and I had no idea about the humidity, and there's no chance to get away from the sun. And it was just brutal. And this guy he was older than me. He had just finished chemo. So we would get done walking like ridiculous amounts. And he would just walk over and throw up and say, I'll be right with you, and come right back. And I'm like, I can't quit, not when this guy's doing this, but right. I should have given myself more time to recuperate.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that kind of in that pace, I guess, are you walking 47 miles a day or something like that? Yeah.
Well, we broke it up a little bit different. We did, I think 35 the first day, and then made up more time the next two because the Blue Angels were going to be at the end in Key West, and they wanted to, recognize him. So we had to kind of push it along a little bit. So it kind of became a game with the two of us, like, do you want to quit? No, I don't want to quit, but I was hurting. I was dying. I don't even like to drive now from Miami to Key West. I don't even want to drive there.
It completely ruined it for you.
Yeah, but it's a great cause. And I didn't mind helping him, and it raised a lot of extra money that he wouldn't have gotten.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, and I definitely want to get into the whys here. But
sure.
Where did you have you always been someone have you run? Have you done ultras? Have you have you walked a lot, or where did this whole idea even come from?
I started with the marathons. I did 3 Marine Corps marathons back to back to back. And that came because we had a young girl living with us who I talked into going into the Marine Corps. And she was going to be sent away. And I said, I'll tell you what. And my wife was sitting across the table when I was talking on the phone to her. I said, until you get out of the Marines, I'll run the Marine Corps marathon in your honor every year. My wife looked at me and went, you've never run a marathon. And I'm like, well, how hard can it be? It's only 26.2 miles. And I ran 3 in a row. Thank God she got out of the Marine Corps, because I'd still be running them. But it was something that I committed to do. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. So the Marine Corps marathon is different, though, because that's a timed marathon. You can't walk that. Oh. If you don't make it by a certain time, they sweep you. They just, at 19 miles, they pull you off the course. Okay. So it was an experience. But then from that, I decided walking would be a little bit better, and I could do it a lot longer in my lifespan than the running.
What's like the cutoff pace? Like, what pace do you have to stay?
So you've got to be around 5 hours at the latest. If you're more than 5 hours, 5.5, they're going to pull you. And a few years ago, there was 40,000 runners. So there's a lot of runners that do it.
So that's about a 12-minute mile pace.
Yeah, about a 12-minute.
Yeah. Do they usually run those on like flatter country, or is it kind of?
Yeah, it's always run in Washington, D.C. So it starts at the War Memorial, and then it winds through and comes through Washington. It's a great marathon because so many people support it, but it's just a little difficult because, if you don't make this bridge, I think it's the 19th Street Bridge. If you don't make the bridge by a certain time, and they've got like a countdown timer, you're swept. Yeah. You're in a bus and your marathon's over.
Was it harder or easier to do than you initially thought it would be? Because I think there's this misconception with people out there that like it happens a lot in ultra running. Like,
yep.
I was told this story once of a guy, of a friend of mine. He's on an airplane and he was talking about this race for ultra trail runners. It's a 100-mile race called Hard Rock 100. It's in Colorado, and it's some of the most gnarly terrain possible. And the guy was asking questions about it because this friend of mine is a big runner. And the guy said, so how fast do they run it in? And he gives them the time, and he's like, that's only like 4.5 miles an hour. Like, I could do that. And the guy just like lost it on him because these guys are like, they are absolute so insane, right? But you think about like, 4 miles an hour, how hard is that really? But you stretch that out over 26 miles or 100 miles or whatever you're doing, it really ups the tempo. So I'm just curious from your perspective, when you signed up versus the reality of it, did it meet your expectations? Is it harder than you thought?
It was hard. I over prepare for everything. So I was prepared for it. But in retrospect, looking back, I would rather do a marathon because you're done. You're in pain for, 5-6 hours, and then you recuperate in 2 or 3 days. When you do a long distance walk, like the United States, for 5 straight months, you're every day dealing with all the opposite, hiding every night. I got to hide. I mean, I can't pitch a tent wherever I want, and being wet and the cold. And, just like you said, I had a guy pull up and start talking to me, and he said, well, how many miles do you do a day? And I told him it varies and yada, yada, yada. And he said, that doesn't sound hard. And I was standing there and I'm like, this cart weighs 90 pounds. Push this thing up these hills and mountains and do that, But everybody thinks, well, how hard is it to walk? It's not hard to walk.
Right.
Most people have never walked more than 10 miles in a day, have no idea of what it's like to walk 50 miles in a day. Have no clue.
Yeah.
And even now, like as I train for September, I'll go out and do 15 miles, and my neighbor will say, how many miles do you do? I say, well, just 15. They go, well, that's easy. I'm like, well, any day you want to go with me, let's go. Let's go, I'm ready.
Yeah, it truly is something you just have to experience it too. And then you're out there. It's not like you're doing this in a gym. It's not like you're doing this on a treadmill, right? It's every day, different conditions, different weather, different terrain. You may have sections that's going to be smooth, some sections that maybe that. Yeah. Well, and now I've got to ask, right? So because I'm curious about this cart, so we got to get this cart that apparently you were pushing around. But before we get there, so you actually finished up your career in 2014, and then you set your sights on raising money for the SEALs, Navy SEALs. What was the reasoning behind that? Like, do you have a touch point with that, or what was the connection there?
Let me back up. My father was a military career man. He had served in Korea and 2 tours in Vietnam. Never told us a war story, ever. Never once. As he's in hospice dying, and he was a sergeant and he wasn't an officer, he told the doctor, give this note, call my son. So the doctor reads the note to me and he says, Sarge says, be at the hospital at 0600. That meant you better be there at 0600 next morning. I don't care how you get here, be there. And the doc said to me, he goes, it's kind of funny because he hasn't talked in 2 weeks. He's been on straight, morphine and water. He's dying.
Wow.
So we fly down, my two brothers, one of my brothers is no longer here, but we fly down. I'm the oldest. We walk in and he starts telling us war stories at 6 o'clock till 5 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
And the whole time he's telling us the build up to how twice in his military career, both in Vietnam, he was actually saved by Special Force community, Navy SEALs. He passes away the next morning. We get back on the plane, we go home. We knew it was coming. We had already said our goodbyes, but we said our goodbyes to someone that didn't make a comment to us. We just figured he was gone. Mm-hmm. The last thing he told me was, one of you three, do something for the community. And that was around 2002. I started working with corporations that I knew as a CEO of a company, building relationships so that I could go back to them later and say, I don't want money from my neighbor and my brother-in-law. I want money from corporations. And I don't want to touch the money. I want the money to go from Cisco or AT&T directly to the Navy SEAL Foundation so that I can stay blameless. No one can ever say that I touched the money. And it took me a number of years to come up with what activity I would do. And it was an article that I saw about a girl running across the country. And I went, no, I don't want to run, but I would walk. And I initially asked my wife to follow me in our RV. And she said, no and hell no. And I said, why? So in talking to all these different manufacturers and companies, I developed a relationship and I kept teasing them, maybe next year, maybe next year. And then I realized I'm getting older. If I don't do it soon, it's going to be really painful. So you asked about the cart. Thule, which was one of my sponsors, I called them up and I said, I'm thinking about pushing a cart because I don't want to carry that much gear. Like water weighs 8 pounds a gallon. In the desert, you need 5 gallons a day, at least, between cleaning, cooking. You're a backpacker. You need a lot of water. And I said, I don't think I can carry this much weight on my back. I'd rather have a cart. The big mistake I made was I didn't listen to some people that have done it that said solid core tires are the way to go. I did air tires and I changed flats all day long. No. Anything gives you a flat, but
well, that's really interesting and what a story. I mean, it's interesting. I hope you had a recorder going if it was possible when your dad was sharing all those stories. That's such a special day. Not too much because we didn't expect it. We kind of thought he had written some notes and he wanted to share, and then we knew he was close to dying. When he started talking, we were like, where's this coming from? And these stories were just, like, wow. And what do we do with that? Like, how do I find something? Because I'm very funny about charities. I want to make sure that the charity is giving that money to the end user. Like, as a CEO, I don't want to hear that the CEO is making $700,000 a year. Right.
All right.
Yeah.
And the Navy SEAL Foundation is 12 people on the board. 11 of them are retired SEALs. And the money is like 97, 98% going to the families. So when I figured all that out, I went to meet with them and they didn't like me. The group that I met with, some of the SEALs. You're not one of them or what? No, they were very suspicious of me. They didn't go out of their way to help at all. Now I've probably got 80 friends that are either active or retired, and I'm part of their community. But it took a long time to get that trust. And I had to be very careful that I never misrepresented them or myself in any way that, I was affiliated more than a volunteer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. So did you ever think that you would be able to raise did you ever think you'd raise much money or did you raise much money?
I raised a lot of money. And in fact, the one that I raised the most for, I never took a step. We were going to do Africa, and I had sold my business in South Africa. I had been there 30 times back and forth. And we decided we were going to walk across South Africa, north of the Zimbabwe River, all the way across the country. And I went to my big sponsors. Dunkin' Donuts has been a big sponsor forever. But anyway, all these sponsors. And I said, this is the last walk. Let's write big checks. Let's really do something good. We came up with a number. It was about $1 million that they collectively agreed to. And every time we had a conference call, it would be another hold up because of COVID and because of the regions that we had to walk through. So each region politically had another requirement. Some wanted security, some wanted this. And the danger angle was something that was tough to, like, how are we going to protect me? Because, United States is one thing, Europe's the one thing, but in Africa, you're really out there on your own. Not to mention, black mamba snake and wild animals and food. And,
just the sheer size of the spiders out there, right?
Yeah. It was a logistics nightmare. So they finally had this one conference call with me, and where everybody's sitting there, they're on the call already. And I come on, and all the different companies are represented, and they all got this sad face on. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. And I'm usually very positive. This is another bad news story. And one of them starts laughing, and I'm like, all right, I give, what's going on? And we spent a lot of time working together, and they went, we got some good news for you. I said, what's that? And you don't have to take a step. We've all agreed. We're just going to write the checks and send them. Now, the reason we want the companies to write the checks is because they get a relationship with the Navy SEAL Foundation. And now the Navy SEAL Foundation thanks them and starts because I can't keep doing these, for the next 10 years. And I don't want me to get the praise and glory. I want them to do it. I want them to get the thank yous. So all of a sudden they would get a new sponsor, writing them a big check. Like, where did this come from? And then they get that relationship. Right. So that was a good walk that I didn't have to take a step. And secretly I was happy because the first time.
Oh, go ahead.
The first time I went over there to really check it out, one of the SEALs met me and he said, we're on a ranch. And within an hour, he came back with a black mamba snake in the back of the truck. He had cut the head off. And I was looking at the snake and he said, no, don't get near it. It can still kill you within an hour from now. And I was like, and I want to walk across the country? Like, I am a big sissy, man. I don't want to be anywhere near these things, right? That's crazy.
Did you grow up outdoors or spend much time outside?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, We were a military family, so we moved a lot. And I did scouts, and I did a lot of Appalachian Trail walking. I mean, I was always interested in that. Yeah. I would go off by myself for weeks at a time, even 15 years old and do it. And I was used to water moccasins and rattlesnakes, those kind of things. As long as you stay away from them, in most cases, they're not going to bother you. But when you get a black mamba, they're aggressive. They get up on the bottom 18 inches of their body and strike at you. I mean, they love to come at you. When I heard these stories, I'm like, nah, I don't know. I was having nightmares getting ready. So when they told me I didn't have to do it, I was trying to act real cool, but I was like, yes, I don't want to do this walk.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot of experience with rattlesnakes, but water moccasins are like, I've got this is the way that I look at life, right? Is that whatever you don't have experience in, whatever unknowns you have are where you have your fears, right?
Yep.
And so, water moccasins look pretty wild, man. Are they not? Are you more worried? I guess having experience with both, are you more worried about a rattlesnake or a water moccasin?
More a water moccasin, but I don't typically get really near them. Like, I'm not in bayous. I don't get in black waters and a lot of water places. Not normally. I mean, I'm not traipsing through water.
So rattlesnakes if someone's headed out on the Appalachian Trail, do they have anything to be worried about?
You have to be cautious. I mean, to say to people that, you have nothing to worry about, that's, nature's totally unpredictable, as you know. I mean, I would be more worried about weather than I would wild animals, and I've met a lot of people that go out there and have no idea about hypothermia or hydration. None. And I do a lot of talks on hydration. I mean, I passed out 28 times from dehydration going across the southern route.
Holy, okay. All right. We got to it's time. It's time to get into that. So your very first hike or walk, was it the from Virginia to California, 3,000 mile?
The very first walk was from Dublin, Ireland to Rome. And that was with a college. So there's a college up in New York State called Pierce, and they do Franklin Pierce, and they do a walk. They did a walk every year from like 69 on as a class curriculum. And they would do this walk where 25 students would just walk, and they would get like 10 months worth of school for that walk. And kids went to the school just for that. And I figured out a way to get to go on that. And we did that walk, and it was amazing. I mean, to learn what the kids learned in 100 days of that walk was more than they learned in 4 years of college.
Explain, right? Because we're so programmed now, right, to just go to the curriculum. You just follow this curriculum path, right? But you're saying this, so explain that.
So here, there's no running water, there's no refrigeration. So we have a truck that everybody's gear's in, and that truck goes to the next potential spot during the day. 3 people would come off the walk for 24 hours, and their job would be go negotiate some farm where we can put our big circus tent. No sides, no bottom, just a tent. Set it up, go find food to feed 25 people without refrigeration. Make lunch, dinner, and breakfast for those 25 kids. Now you got to feed them. They got to eat 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day, right?
Yeah.
And you've got a X amount of budget to work with. You've got to negotiate with people in different languages. You got to figure it out, and there's no backup. So the first thing that happens, the kids, some of them may be a little spoiled, a little bit pampered. They get out there and they realize I didn't prepare well. I didn't walk enough. I only walked 3-4 miles a couple times, and I got blisters. Well, deal with it. We're going to pop them, and we're going to sew them, and you're going to keep going because there's no way to get off. Right. And just watching how they made the food better and better and better. Like we'd get near a fountain. Everybody carried a little bit of shampoo, wash your hair, dip in and dip out. You figured out where to go to the bathroom. But they learned things. They learned empathy and compassion for each other. Because when you're that close for that long and you're facing that many different scenarios, you're going to change. And I wanted to go on this walk every year, but it eventually they broke it down because of, I think, liability. But Europe's the right place for it because they're more accustomed to people. And that got me thinking about this Camino de Santiago, which I'm going to do again the second time. Now, that's a place where your company, I'm going to walk around and hand out stickers because there's 300,000 people a year do that walk now.
Oh,
and they've been doing it for 1,000 years, that pilgrimage.
Yeah.
It is. And most of the people that do it are later in their lives. They have the money and they're constantly looking for gear. I mean, that's all we talk about. It's like, because you're carrying everything on your back.
So they're like legitimately doing this. Like it's not, so it sounds like people are doing this later in life and they're actually building up for it. It's not something like they're doing when they're 18 per se, and they just
there's a wide group. About 80 countries are usually represented, and each town is set up for pilgrims. So it starts in France. There's many Caminos, but the one that I do is called the French route. It starts in France. Quickly, it goes into Spain and goes across the northern part of Spain to Santiago. Mm-hmm. And it's just 500 miles. So it's not earth shattering. I did it in 30 days the first time. I'm going to take my time a little bit more this time, but it's more fun for me because, every night you don't have to camp. You don't have to, there's it's like a hostel, but it's only for the pilgrims, and they're set up in every town and the meals are cheap, but seeing how people handle mountains and weather changes and climates and gear, and the food is phenomenal. I mean, the best wine, the best food you've ever had for nothing, basically. I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here.
No, food is a part of all of this. I mean, it really is. So we love talking about food. That sounds really amazing. And it sounds kind of low stress in some ways because you've got these stops and it's really just get yourself to the trail. I mean, so then probably your priorities are, what apparel are you taking? Because you're not really, are you taking like a sleeping bag or a pad or anything like that?
So I'm going to take your quilt, just a top quilt, because every once in a while it gets a little bit colder. One of the biggest problems people have is they bring too much gear. So in the first few days, you see gear on the side of the fence that you can pick stuff up and almost outfit just from the gear. Because people bring like 5 pair of pants. You need 1 pair of pants, 2 pair of underwear. That's it. I mean, you wash out every night and, but they don't get it. Like they bring 3 pair of shoes. But why are you bringing 3 pair of shoes? That's just weight you're carrying.
Buy one when you need it. Yeah.
My weight for my pack with your pack that I bought the 40-ounce one. I'll be under 9 pounds total with the pack, not counting water, but I'm only carrying a liter of water. So that's not bad. I can do that all day long. It's not like humping 40 pounds somewhere.
Are you like the example out there? Meaning like, are most of the people out there nowhere near like an ultralight backpacker status of they got like full,
to see some of the stuff they're carrying, you go, oh my goodness, why are you carrying that? Like, I've heard women complain like from Australia, and I'll walk over and pick their bag up and I'm like, all right, let's talk. You don't need a hairdryer. You don't need this makeup. You don't need this stuff,
You're one of us now, right? You don't need that.
But the difference between that and then doing the United States was dramatic, because the United States, you don't know where you're staying every night. So every night you're thinking, how do I find a spot and hide this cart and me for the night? So in the beginning I had a tent and I sent it home. I said, I can't pitch a tent. So then I got a bivy sack.
You're talking in America now.
Yeah. And a camouflage cover for the bagging. I got real good at hiding, brush my teeth and duck in and get out before 5 o'clock so that people didn't, because you're vagrant, you just can't pitch a tent wherever you want. So the dynamic between having a place to stay where you're welcome and you can have a glass of wine to hiding behind a dumpster is a big difference.
Yeah. So I want to go backwards in the timeline and then get back to this. So you did the Ireland to Rome hike or walk after you were retired in 2014.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
and then you did the Camino de Santiago.
Yep.
So what year did you set out on this walk across America?
That was 2015.
Okay. So that's pretty quick. You just started hiking all over as soon as you retired, huh?
And I put in more miles almost on every one of them in training than I did in the actual walk. And even now, like by the time I leave for Spain in September 1st, I'll have probably 2,500 miles this year of walking. Yeah. But I would rather be over prepared and be to the point where like I've dropped since September 1st, I've dropped 27 pounds getting ready. And
that's amazing.
I'm in the gym 6 days a week. I mean, I get serious. My nutrition is perfect, not close, perfect. And I'll do that for an entire year because I just know what happens when I don't prepare enough. It gets in my head. I start thinking about like, am I hydrated enough? Did I eat the right way for the year? And I've learned now that I'm getting very old, but I've learned that I'm the type of person I can't have donuts tomorrow or Sunday and then Monday get back on program. Mm-hmm. I have to make a commitment for an entire year that I am not going to have white bread. I'm not going to have sugar. I'm not going to have soda. I'm not going to have alcohol. And that's the way I can keep that pattern. Other people can do it. I can't.
Yeah. I've realized this just about myself. And that's that if I don't have a big goal, if I don't have something sitting there that is big enough that it scares me a little bit, I won't change. Right. And so last year in preparations for an ultra marathon, the only ultra marathon I've ever run, it scared me enough that it absolutely changed my behavior. But there's other times when it's like, okay, and I'm just going to drop like 2 pounds this month. Easy peasy, something like that. And I won't lose it. So the next month's like, all right, I gotta lose 3 now on this accelerator rate, and then I won't do it. And then I gotta lose 4 now. But if I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go all in and lose it as fast as I can, and then maintain, like I can do that. So I think I can really relate to that. And in fact, I want to circle back to just this challenge that we have going on called the 100-mile challenge, because I think it's something that the principles in there are something that you're applying inherently, that I've applied inherently, and that really, I think, help people change their behavior and go and do something that they wouldn't otherwise do. But so when you talk about this training, how are you training? How are you getting ready for a walk like this? You say your nutrition's perfect. What's perfect?
Yeah. So let me start this. I get up at 4:30 every day. And my wife, who walks a little bit with me, she's had her hip replaced twice. So we do 5 miles in the morning, slow, just to communicate with her. And then I'll leave her after breakfast and I'll walk another 9 to the gym or some combination. I have a number of routes to keep it from getting boring. And then I'll get in the gym and I'll do strength training, because as I'm losing weight, I don't want to lose muscle. Even though I don't have a lot, I don't want to lose. Keep your ligaments
strong, all of that.
I'll do a little bit of treadmill work on big inclines because I live in Florida and it's hard for me to train. So I went down to Ecuador in December. I'm going to Colorado a few times to get some altitude training, because that kicks your butt if you're not used to it. That hurts a lot of people. From a nutritional standpoint, I count everything. Well, I keep a ledger of everything that I eat. And then at the end of each night, I deduct what my caloric burn was for the day from biking, swimming, all the things that I do. And I pretty much train all day long. And then once I get that number, I look at my goals and I go, okay, I need another 10 pounds by September, and I'll the fat content. And then I have my blood tested. So I really go all out and make sure that I'm on track. And I put a lot of micro goals that I miss. Like some goals I missed. Yeah. I mean, I had a goal to lose another 2 pounds by Friday. I'm not going to make it, but that's okay. It wasn't, that doesn't crush me. It just says maybe it was a little too hard. I did everything right.
Yeah. So you're calorie counting, but you might be taking it even a step farther to where you're tracking macros.
I do all the macros. And then the other thing I do is I intermittent fast. I'm just doing 16-8. I don't do the 24. I don't do skipping days, but it gives me a chance to get my body to rest a little bit. The one thing I don't do enough of is rest. And that I know I need to do more rest, but it's hard because
that's what's so hard with cutting calories too, right? You're cutting calories and training. And so that sometimes is a combination for issues, right? Or for injury, I guess.
And I can feel it like, every once in a while, I'll be totally bonked. And I'll say to my wife, instead of me walking back the 6 miles the way I usually come home, come pick me up. And I'm just going to rest this afternoon. And then I find myself in the pool swimming laps, at the condo going.
Get some food in you. And you're like,
I could do more. Like, I could do more. And it's this over preparation that comes from being around these guys and seeing how they prepare for everything. And I motivate myself.
Who's
the
these
SEALs?
Guys? Okay.
Yeah, the Navy SEAL guys. When I'm around them and I see how hard they work in real world situations, like they train with live fire, they train exactly like what they're going to do. I've kind of adapted that to, I want to, like, if it's pouring out, I want to go out and walk. Like, I don't want to say, well, I'll walk in a couple hours when the rain leaves. I want to get out and get wet, because I know when I get on the Camino or the next big walk, that's going to happen.
Right.
And that 3 initials are killing me. That PCT is in my mind. And I'm already telling my wife, next year, I think I'm going to have to do it. I just think I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah. There's worse things you could do with your time. Right. But
definitely.
That's really interesting, just about the calorie counting and intermittent fasting and stuff. I really don't have any experience with the fasting, but this year I've been fasting basically from Sunday night to Monday night, because it helps me get that week started if I happen to overeat on the weekend, which is probably a better chance that I do than I won't, or that it's going to happen than I'm not. And then I've been calorie counting, and it's just wild how much that plays in and helps me at least to be able to really see what I'm doing. I can sync up my watch to port in calories into, I use the MyFitnessPal app.
Yep.
And Garmin can integrate into that, pull in your activity, and it makes it really convenient. But is there any other tricks or tips that you have?
No, but you have to be careful too, because you're in a position, like I'm watching your career. I'm watching how the company's going, and you're going like this, and that adds stress. And then you've got small kids too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got a family. So those things, that's what crushed me. I mean, I've been to 100 countries traveling when I was working. Wow. And I was constantly going, and what ends up happening is you get out of balance. It's hard to keep everything balanced. I'm retired now. It's my wife and I train, a certain way, but I don't have to do the job and the
Mm-hmm.
future and the travel and the shows and all the stuff that you have to go through. Yeah. One of the tricks that I use is, I put myself in a position when I get tempted. So my wife's birthday was January 15th. And we took a bunch of people out for a nice dinner. And it came time for dessert. Everybody gets dessert. And I'm sitting there looking at everyone had dessert in front of them except me. And one of the things I say to myself a lot is, I put myself in this place for the families of our fallen heroes, to help them with education, bereavement, and why. So when I think about the why, that piece of lemon meringue pie with ice cream isn't that important. If I just think about I'm not getting lemon meringue pie, it starts to get in your head. So if I put the reason why I train so hard, like I know from today to my birthday, how many days it is, because I put a big goal on my birthday. So every morning when that alarm goes off at 4:30, I don't get up and feel sorry for myself. I get up and go, the reason I'm doing this is because of this family that I met and this family that I met. So whenever there's a funeral of a SEAL that I don't even know them, I will go to the funeral and go to the family and do whatever I can. And that I've seen that reward from those families. I've seen what it does when you help pay off a mortgage, or you finish their education, or you pay bills that they can't afford, or whatever it is. And that kind of helps me get through that momentary feeling sorry for myself, or, why can't I just have a bowl of chips and a beer and watch this football game? And the reason is because of where I'm going. And so that helps me deal with the ups and downs. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's so much to unpack right there. Finding so there's a quote I heard years ago, and I mean, over a decade ago, that was, when you understand the why, you can endure any what, right? So you obviously know your why. Your why is to help these Navy SEAL families, and you're extremely dedicated to that, which allows you to do things that everyone else around you is going to say, Paul, you are crazy. Who gets up at 4:30? Who does this? Who does this? Like, you're just crazy. And in your mind, you're saying, I'm totally sane, but you've got this why, and it's so powerful. And so I think figuring out your why is so important. To me, I have multiple whys. Like, there's nothing that says you can't have multiple whys, right? So for me, you alluded to that I have 2 little kids. I want to be able to keep up with them anywhere they want to go, whatever hobbies they have. I want to be able to chase them and help them and be there with them, right? I also have a lot of hobbies myself. I want to do that my whole life, right? Like, if I can't do those things, then I'm going to, I know that I'm going to tank in many, many ways, right? But understanding that why is huge. But another thing that I find, and maybe comment on this too, is I find that if I make a big commitment, I don't have to make 7,000 small commitments every day and be faced with, like if you already know I'm not eating lemon meringue pie, I'm not even eating any dessert till next Monday, then when that shows up, it's easy because you've already made that decision, right? And so to me, that makes it easier.
I'll tell you a quick story. Years ago, I was in sales, and I got a job with a company out in California. And it just so happened that I got a big sale right before the annual sales meeting. I lucked into it. bring my wife out. They treat us like gold. And we're in this sales meeting and they're honoring the number one guy who had been the number one guy for 15 years. And my wife's looking at me and she's there, don't you do it. Don't you do it. I'd only been with the company 30 days. At the end, I stood up, took my glass, tapped my fork. My wife said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I said, I remember the guy's name, Tom Ross. I said, Tom, I want to congratulate you. No one even knew who I was. I said, but this is the last year you'll be number one. I said, as I stand here, I will be number one next year, and I will be number one every year that I'm there. My wife could have died. I was number one guy for 7 years, and I left the company after 7 years. But I had to put a big stake in the ground. Yeah. So I do the same thing with these walks. I tell people what I'm doing. I tell people so I'm accountable, so people can see me. If they see me eating French fries, somebody's going to come up to me and go, I thought you weren't going to have alcohol. You swore off alcohol for a year, or, you weren't going to eat dessert, or you're not going to have white bread or sugar. You're never going to see that. You're never going to see me have a soda pop between now and next September. It's not going to happen. Now, my reward is when I go on that Camino, I'm going to have a glass of wine every night. I'm going to have a chocolate croissant every morning. And when I get home, I'll say, okay, now it's the PCT in 9 months and let's go. Yeah. One of the things the SEALs have taught me too, and they say this, you can do 7 times more than you think you can do. And when you really break that down and you think how many times we quit at stuff, like we stop, like, oh, that's too hard. No, it isn't. It's because mentally we're not hard. To be really hard physically is not that hard. It really isn't. I know it sounds like, but it's not. It's capturing why you're doing it. And we talked about that and understanding that it's mental, not physical all the time.
Right. And I think it's that mental side is a muscle that can absolutely be grown, right? Like these Navy SEALs, for those of you that haven't maybe read this book, and you may or may not be a fan, I don't know, but like David Goggins' book, right? Like he talks a lot about that kind of stuff, but it's absolutely this muscle that can be grown and strengthened. And I like to think that I've taken steps in that direction, but there are guys out there that are so capable, but it's, and we want to say, oh, it's their biology or it's this or it's that, but their dedication and their mental fortitude and strength is just off the charts, and that's led them to be at their prime physically or to stay in it, right? And there's so much to that, but I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm going to circle back to some of this nutrition because I want to know what nutrition was like on this big 3,000 mile walk, right? So, but you get started on this. So what month do you take off to start this?
So I leave April 1st out of Virginia Beach at Little Creek SEAL Base, and I'm going to walk to San Diego, and I decide to take Route 60, which is what they call a dead road. Route 60 goes all the way to the edge of Arizona, but it's a 2-lane in a lot of places. And because a lot of highways have been built, it's what they call a dead road. And someone gave me advice, oh, that's a good road that's a runner that was supported. It said, oh, I'm going to go on Route 60. So I choose Route 60. Yeah. The problem is there's a lot of places where there's nothing. There's no food. So I would go into gas stations and go, give me all of that. And they go, it's been in there a couple of days. I don't care. I mean, I just needed calories. And what I know about nutrition today, I would have to be supported to do that again, because I understand nutrition so much more now. But then I was just, give me food. I don't care what it is. Just give me something to eat.
So you take off, just to set the backstory here, you take off, you've got some kind of a cart. Describe the cart really quick, because it's got, is it like a running baby's cart type of thing?
It's a double wide baby stroller that I broke the axle on, that I broke the wheels, because they're not made to do 3,000 miles.
They're made to go around the block, buddy.
But this thing was like $1,900. They gave it to me. I lettered it up. I'll send you a picture of it. It came out really nice, but it's wide. So it's 30 something inches wide. So when you're walking against a guardrail, against traffic, your number one thing is not getting killed by a texter.
Yeah.
Like people say, do you listen to a radio? Hell no. I looked straight at the drivers, and more than once I jumped the guardrail and left Thule sitting there. I named it. I hated that thing. I left it sitting there because I thought it's going to get killed before me.
You're right.
Oh.
So you take off. You've got how much gear in this thing? What's in the cart?
So in the beginning, I had cookware. Obviously, I had a tent, way too big of a tent, sleeping bag, ground cloth, my clothes. I brought an axe. I mean, stuff that I brought you just don't need. Like, and as I would go, I would give it away, throw it away, send it. And people would give me stuff, and I would go, "Thank you," out. Because when you're going up those hills,
it's not staying.
Yeah, you're going up those hills in West Virginia. I mean, it got to the point where I would slide my foot under the wheel and breathe because it gets so hard to push that much weight up a hill.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize is when I started, my original plan was to be done on Veterans Day. And I got so tired of being out there that I said, you know what, I'm going to change the schedule. And I'm going to accelerate it. I'm going to be done by September 1st, 5 months. So I had to make a lot of changes to make that happen. In the beginning, you'll like this. The first few days I get in a hailstorm and it's hailing, and I'm holding what they call a diplomat umbrella, which is made with tungsten steel inside that every diplomat carries. So if they're ever in an emergency, if they hit you with that, they'll break your ribs. This company gave me one. So I'm hunkered down with this hail coming, and a sheriff pulls up and he rolls down the window. He goes, "What the hell are you doing?" Like me, I'm walking for the families of fallen Navy SEALs. And he goes, "Get in." I'm like, "I can't get in the car. I signed an edict that I would not take a ride." And he's there. All right, there's a firehouse a mile down the road. I'll meet you there. I said, "Well, I can't. I'm not a fireman." He said, "Just go there." Well, the firemen put me up. And they would call ahead to the next firehouse and the next firehouse. So for a while, I had firehouses, paid and volunteer, putting me up. Wow. But I found out you never sleep in a paid firehouse because they're up all night long. They're getting called all night long. The volunteers are having meals for me. Like they're bringing everybody around. They want to talk. I wasn't getting any sleep.
Yeah.
And then they would call and say, "We've got a firehouse 12 miles up that can't wait to see you." I need to go further than that.
Yeah.
So I got to the point where I said, you know what? No more. Now I'm going to start pushing. I upped my mileage once I hit the Mississippi to 30, 40, 45 miles a day.
Wow.
And I started sleeping outside to really accelerate this. But where I ran into trouble is when I hit Arizona. Arizona, New Mexico are brutal in August. And I did it because I didn't want to walk in Colorado in the Rockies because I figured the
pushing
mountains,
that cart up.
But the heat, I mean, I was at 120, 125 degrees some days, and I would pass out and everybody comes running over. They see the sign, they come running over and they want to call an ambulance. I'm like, no, I'll be all right. Well, my wife got so scared. She's there, like hearing about it. She goes, "I want you to wear a bicycle helmet." I said, "I'm not walking with a bicycle helmet across the country." But I obviously had concussions, and I mean, I was getting in bad shape. So it took a real toll on me. And I realize now you can't wait until you're thirsty. I mean, you got to be getting the fruit, and you got to be getting fiber, and you got to be drinking long before you ever get to that point of dehydration.
Yeah, for sure. So, man, so you start off, what is your goal initially? Like how many miles a day were you hoping to do?
So in the beginning, I was trying to do 15 because there was so much hills. Like once you get out of Virginia Beach and you start getting into the eastern side, it gets steep and they're logging roads, a lot of the on Route 60. So you're going straight up and people say, "Oh, it's nothing like the Rockies," but it doesn't matter when you're pushing that much gear. Yeah. And it was cold.
And they never end.
And it never ends. And everybody would tell you, "Oh, you're out of them now." You're out of them if you're driving. But when you're walking, even the smallest hill eats you up.
Yeah.
Like when I hit Oklahoma, I don't know how many troopers would stop me and say, "Yeah, you're out of the hills now." And I look and I go, you can't see that hill there, but in a car, you don't feel it.
You don't even notice. Yeah. So 15 miles a day is what you're starting off. Obviously you scale that a whole lot at different times, all the way up to 45 miles. Do you have anyone following you or watching out for you? Or are you just 100% solo out there? No,
you're solo. I had a sat phone that a few SEALs kept an eye on it. I was posting my longitude and my coordinates, but I stopped doing that because people started showing up right where I was. And I didn't want that. So I would post it a couple days later because, there's a lot of nuts out there. And a lot of people think you're carrying a lot of cash for some reason. People gave me some donations, and every time I'd see a post office, I had pre-done envelopes that I would send it. Yeah. But you never know when someone's going to do something stupid. So, and I didn't have any. Here's a great story. Here's a great story. I had a trooper from West Virginia stop me, and people would call constantly saying, there's a guy out there with a baby stroller and there's kids in it. Oh. So a cop would pull up, and, as soon as I see the cop, I put my hands up, I'd show him my ID, and he'd say, what do you got in the cart? I said, dirty laundry, open it up and show him. There's raincoat, nothing in there. An hour later, another cop would stop me, and I go, can't you guys call to the next group and just tell them I'm coming? I got to keep, every day I got stopped by somebody. Right. Well, one of the troopers, I was heading into West Virginia, and he's there, do you have a weapon? I said, well, I got a pocket knife and I've got this umbrella. And he goes, do you have a gun? I said, no, I'm from New Jersey. At that time I was from New Jersey, and you can't even spell gun in New Jersey. He opens his trunk. He goes, do you want one? And I went, that's rich. I've never had a state trooper offer me a gun. And he's there. I can't imagine you going into these towns you're going to be going into without a weapon. Yeah. So he leaves. About 6 hours later, he pulls up and he gets out and he gives me a box of flares. I kid you not, these flares were huge. And he goes, take the flares. And I'm like, I don't want these. He goes, no, take them. He goes, it's bothered me all day. Well, I took them. I ended up keeping 2, and I ended up throwing them away because what am I going to do with these big, long flares? But in his mind, he knew where I was heading, and he knew that, there's crack addicts and drug addicts. There's going to be problems. Yeah. Yeah. Funny enough, one of the only places I've lived back east was in Virginia Beach. I went there when I was 18, graduated high school, and I went out there to sell alarm systems door to door. And I remember with this one neighborhood I got dropped off in. I'd have been in Richmond, that area or something. But first house I knock on asked me if I have a weapon. And I'm like, no, I have a clipboard. You know what I mean? And they're like, well, do you want one? Or they said, where are you headed? And I said, oh, just down the street. And they said, oh, well, do you want one? I was like, I don't think so. But it definitely made me check. And then sure enough, I walked through that area. It was kind of sketchy, and just put my head down and got through it, but then got to the other side. Like one of the first houses I knock over there is a police officer's house, and he buys an alarm system like right off. He's like, come in here. Where do I sign? He's like, I've already got an alarm system. If you say yours is any better, I will buy it. I was like, holy cow. And I was like, isn't there a police station just right around the corner? He says, yeah, they break in and just take the weapons out. So it's not really helpful, but anyways. I was just thinking the whole time I don't think I would do the United States again unless the companies put up a huge amount of money. But I would probably do it escorted to do it again. And really because of the people driving, and any one time there's 40 people going back and forth across the United States. Yeah. And all the people that have done it are busting my stones because I don't do it again. I'm like, no, once was enough. Yeah. Unless they give me a huge amount of money or the sponsor says like, do Canada and I'll give you, $2 million to your charity, I would do it, but I don't think I'd do it again. Yeah. Yeah. It's scary. I mean, just driving around and watching people's eyes, always looking down, phones, all that kind of stuff. When I lived in Malaysia, I rode bikes everywhere, and looking back now, I'm just so glad I made it through that, because just drunk drivers and all sorts, like it just wasn't monitored as well. And when they're all in this 5,000 pound metal vehicle to bump into things, and you got nothing but a Thule cart in front of you. So I want to go back. I wanted to ask about this, and this is a little bit on topic here, of just, did you get treated differently
like I know like you're explaining what you're doing, but did you get treated differently in the sense of people thinking that you're just like a vagabond, just, you know, maybe homeless, right? And you're scooting through places and people are just really, you know, maybe,
No, they I did a couple things. I shaved every day only because I just felt like, and nothing against beards. I've sent you guys.
I'm just sitting here like, what are you going to say, Paul? What are you going to say?
my kid brother and my son has a beautiful beard. I bought him a place in Ecuador and he's got a gorgeous beard. I decided to shave every day because I thought that would help a little bit. And then in the front, I had Navy SEAL Foundation Walk Across America. That helped me most times. Like VFWs, American Legions, if they saw me or heard about me, they were trying to drag me in to feed me and take care of me. Indian casinos were the nicest, friendliest people I've ever met in my life. They would put me in a suite. They would give me steak. They would, wash my clothes. They'd send someone to my room and knock on the door and say, give me all your clothes. Here's a robe and we'll wash everything for you. And I was like, wow, the kindness of some people is just amazing. Like in West Virginia, I'll never forget. I'm in a holler, like the valleys. And I hear this guy yell, can you wait a second? I don't even know where he's saying it from. And here he comes running down with a little kid and he's got a sandwich in a baggie and a cola. Now this is like what you would get at the cheapest supermarket. It doesn't say Coke, It says cola, right?
Yeah.
And I take the sandwich. Now I never ate what they gave me because I can't afford in most cases to get sick. On the other side, it was one piece of bologna. On the other side, I could see mold. But that's all they had. Yeah. Right? They were the most generous people I've ever met. The worst were California. They were the worst. California was horrible. But the poorest people were the nicest people. I mean, anything they had, they give you. And I had to learn to say yes, thank you, and please, because I'm the type, I don't like people giving me things. I want to give to you.
Right.
And it's very hard for me. I've been very successful. I've made a lot of money, but you learn real quick that you've got to be on the other side and you got to be gracious and say thank you and just shut up.
Yeah. Last Christmas, not this year, but the one before, I was in Walmart and I had, $100 and something in my shopping cart, and I go to pay for it. And she says, oh, no. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, that lady right over there, she just paid for your stuff. And I took a look, and I don't know how to say this, but like,
yeah, I know.
They were not someone who, in my eyes, should have been paying for someone else just off of pure appearance, right? Which is super wrong to say, but it crushed me. I was like, no, I can't let you do this. I'm very successful. You know what I mean? Like, and like I should be the one doing this type of thing. And here they are. They did say, no, we'd love to do this. We do this at Christmas. And there was nothing I could do. Right. You make a big fuss and it takes away from the experience that they were doing and so on and so forth. But it was just one of those moments where you're like, that was just so, it was personal and it meant a lot to me. And then it just, it really motivated me to be like, okay, I need to do more of this. Right. But I know what you mean. Like just sitting there, you're just like, no, you don't understand. Like I can pay for the, and you should take this and like, let me go take you shopping now, or something, but it was tough.
I would go into a diner. I would be in a diner or a restaurant and I'd order a lot of food. Like once I found a place, I would order a lot of food and I go to pay and they go, your bill was paid. By who? It's gone. I said, well, let me give the tip. He's tipped. Those are the people that they don't want you to know anything. They just said, pick everything up he eats. And I don't know, I'm just ordering, 3 desserts and 3 meals and just because it was good food. Yeah. But you learn to just say thank you and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just absolutely incredible people out there. And you get into the day to day and sometimes you feel like humanity is going one direction, but there's just still so many amazing people out there, and I love it.
A lot of trail angels out there. There really are.
Yeah. All right, I've got to pivot here for a second. We've burned through some of our time here, Paul, but I've got to hear more about the passing out, hydration, and all of this. So I mean, at this point, you've hiked all through a lot of states. You're getting into these really hot sections. So take us through, like, you're passing out. How are you getting out of these scenarios where you're passing out? I mean, if you're getting to a situation where you're passing out, now you've got to self-recover. And I mean, what does that look like?
So there was a guy that contacted me that saw my walk, and he's there. I'm a federal agent. I'd like to have you to our home for dinner. And I'm like, cool, right? He's coming up the other side of the highway, and I'm coming up, and he sees me. I don't know he's coming that way. He sees me go just flat over. He throws his lights on, comes across the road. Well, it turns out he's a wildlife agent, like a forest guy. Yeah. The way he said it, I thought he was CIA or something. He gets out and he wants to call an ambulance. And I'm like, coming to, and I'm like, I can't go in an ambulance. I say, here's what I need. I need Pedialyte or, something, electrolytes. And I would take anything. Like if a bum was sitting on the side of the road and had a Gatorade and slobbered in it, I was down in it. Because you just can't, once you're dehydrated and you get low, you can't catch back up.
No.
And because I kept pushing, because I got this goal in my mind, on September 1st, I was finishing. And people that knew me said, Paul, it's impossible. And that's all the motivation I needed. Like when someone says to me, you can't do it by that date, then it becomes, so instead of stopping at 6 o'clock, I'd go to 10. And then I started walking at night because it was cooler. I could get up and try to sleep in the day in a culvert, anything, and then push. But I walked too much and I pushed my body too hard. And it got to the point where I was seeing the white spots, and I was like, if I leaned over, I was out. Like I could not tie my shoes. I laid on my back and tied my shoes because if I leaned over, I was out. And when I got home, my doctor said, what? You can die doing this. You gotta, you gotta understand your motivation. And one of the SEALs told me, he said, Paul, look, think about this. We're a team. You don't have a team out there. There's no one to watch your back. So you can't put yourself in danger. You have a wife. I've been married almost 50 years. You have a wife at home. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is making sense. But I still made it by the first. I still walked up on that day and finished. But that's the mentality I have that I've got to check. I got to keep that in check.
So what would you do once you'd pass out, right? Because you said yourself, like, you can't really catch up. So, I mean, do you just lay there until it's dark, hydrate all night long, and then get up and try again?
No. In fact, at one point I remember I was walking and the mayor came out to meet me, and he said, we're going to have a little bit of something for you. And I'm okay, thank you. Little town. And he went back into town, and like 3 hours later, they came back out. I'm like, what the hell's going on? This guy was only a mile away. I was out. On the ground. So he comes up and he tapped the fire squad, and they came out, and I said, look, guys, just get me up. I got it. And it took me hours to go that last mile. I would go to the curb and sit, and then I'd walk like 100 feet and sit. And it just got to the point where I'm like, I have got to rest. I got to take a complete day to rest. Yeah. And you start to feel when it's coming, and I would like get in the shade. But I remember there's one woman, she was sitting on a big hill where the gas station was, and the little kid was sitting in a van looking out. The mother was doing something, and this little kid watched me fall over, and he said to his mom, because that guy just fell over. And the mom said, what are you talking about? Look down there, and she drives the van down, and she's beeping the horn, and I'm like, it's okay, I'll be all right. Just give me up. Just let me sit. Arm.
I'm alive.
I don't ever want to, like, even now, like when I'm training, I don't let myself get there. Like I get up in the morning and I have 2 complete bottles of water, tap water, as soon as I get up.
Yeah.
To get it started. Because I know what I'm going to do today. Here it's warm, it's going to be really hot this summer here. And I'm going to train all summer long. I know what to do now.
Yeah, that's just pure insanity, and I don't even know what to say about that. But I do want to hear what you've changed and how you hydrate now. What do you look at hydration-wise, electrolyte-wise?
So one of the things that I have a thermos. Here it is here. I have a thermos that Apple makes. Actually, Apple bought the company. And this thing actually lights up and tells me when I don't drink. It goes on my phone, it goes on my watch. And I try to drink 80 ounces of fluid before 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Which is a lot of fluid. All right. And if I'm not drinking, like if I take it to the gym and it starts lighting up, people go, your thermos is lighting up. But yeah, it's reminding me.
You got a call on your phone over there, sir.
Yeah, it's reminding me that I got to keep drinking. The other thing I do is I have a lot of fruit because there's a lot of liquid in fruit. And the challenge for me is I get bored with the water. So I'll take some lemonade tablets and throw them in there just to give it a little bit of taste.
Totally.
But no sugar, like kind of, so you taste it, but it's different. And it's just a conscious thing to keep drinking all day long.
But that's at home. But what about out in the real world when you're doing efforts like this?
Yeah. So I plant water a lot of times too. So what I'll do is I'll take a water jug and I'll stick a water jug on my route. Okay. So that when I get there, I have water, and I know pretty consistent. I know where I'm going to go. I know where there's water. And I'll always fill up. Like no matter what, I'm putting water back into the containers I have. So if I'm biking or I'm walking, I've always got water on me. I wear a little waistband that's got water. I carry water bottles. I have to, because it's the only, without water, you die.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just listening to a podcast with some experts in endurance, efforts like this. And, they're talking about how much salt do you need, electrolytes do you need? And really the study that this professional had put together was really, focus almost 100% on hydration. Salt always comes second to hydration. But do you put any effort or energy into hydration?
So I started
salt
with
or electrolytes.
Yeah. I started with those, I forgot what they call them, goo and all that stuff. And I used to use that. Yeah. But it upset me. Like I found everything got screwed up. So I don't salt my food a lot. In my smoothies that I make, and I make a smoothie with like 30 ingredients, I'll put salt in there, a little bit of salt in there that helps. And I'll have cashews that have salt on them. But I don't like salt things the way I probably should. For years we were told salt's bad for us. It's bad for you. It's bad for you. It's bad for you. But it's like anything. I'm not doing what normal people my age do. Most people don't walk 15 miles and go to the gym and swim and bike in a day. That's not normal. So I have to regulate a little bit differently for what I do. If I was sitting home and not doing anything all day and drank that much water, I would explode.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. So you're mainly just intaking for your own personal,
right?
Like you're familiar enough with your body that's how you're kind of judging it.
Yeah. And as I get older, like that's the other problem I have. Like I want to do this until I'm 100 and I want to live to 125. But the reality is my body's not going to allow that. So I've got to be smart in what I do. Like when I was halfway through this walk, I was in trouble. And I called the manufacturers and I said, I might not be able to finish this. Every one of them said, we'll pay it off. Don't worry about it. Like, we're going to write that check. And I'm like, now I got to finish. I got to finish. I just can't let them do that because I'll never get them to sponsor again. Yeah. They'll never put the money up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. So you finish, you make it, right? Do you make it all the way across?
I make it all the way across.
What's it like to finish?
The finish was funny because the pictures, like there's a lot of press there. I didn't want anybody there. And the word gets out. I had a person that was helping me from North Carolina, like call ahead to different things. And the word got out. So the Lowe's Hotel at Coronado had all the guests come out to meet me. All the people that worked there come out to meet me. So it was a big reception. And I'll never forget, there was a group of guys going through buds that they brought across, and they're all sandy and they're standing there, wet and cold. And each guy comes up and says something to me, thank me, and moves on. And this one guy comes up and he starts to say something. I'm there, hey, look, I want to thank you. And he goes, sir, I would come, and he looks both ways. He goes, talk to Mickey Mouse to get out of that freezing cold water. I started laughing, and the DI's like laughing at him, going, let's go, let's move it on,
Back in the water.
Then that night, these guys said to me, like one of the commanders said, "Hey, we meet at a SEAL bar in Coronado, and why don't you come down tonight? We'll buy you a beer." And I said, "Well, where is it?" And they go, "It's down the road." I said, "Well, how am I going to get there?" And he goes, "Effing walk." So he leaves. So it's 7 miles to get to this bar. And I walk in. I'm not a drinker. And they're drinking Jägermeister. I don't even know what Jägermeister was. Oh, I woke up in the Lowe's Hotel in my room. All my stuff's laid out, and I had no idea how I got there. The guy at the door, the doorman, he was showing me this video. He goes, "You got to see this." They rolled me up in a carpet from the bar and put me in the back of the truck and took me in and put me on a luggage cart and took me to my room. And they said, "Give me the key." And they gave it to him and put me in my room. It took me 2 years to find out which guys did that, but I found out who did it.
Well, but it was I hope great. The guy at least checked that you were alive in the roller carpet. It sounds pretty.
I look like a fish. I was like this. I just look like a fish. So anytime we go any place, like if we go to a funeral or anything afterwards, like if they go drinking, I go, "I'll drive, guys." Like I'm not going to drink for a year. I'll drive. I'll keep an eye on you.
I know you guys thought you took care of me, but I don't know if I can handle.
I've taken up so much of your time, and I so appreciate you making the opportunity to talk to me and helping with this. It means so much to me and to the community.
No, I mean, likewise. I loved this conversation. It was. I mean, there's a lot here. It was really fun to get to know you, hear these stories. It's amazing what you're doing. I think it's just incredibly inspiring to see you out here pushing your limits like this, but also you're doing it because you love it. I mean, obviously, like you're probably in some of the best physical condition you've ever been in. And it's really inspiring to see all of that. And again, just the causes is absolutely phenomenal. So we appreciate what you do here and appreciate you as a customer. Apparently I didn't know you were a customer until I got on the call today. Actually, so
I'm a big customer. My wife said that was the worst sale she's ever seen because every day I bought something. I'm like, "Honey, I don't need this, but look what they got. Look at this price." The only thing I still got to buy is I want to get your rain jacket because I've been reading about that thing and it just seems like that's
we'll get one out to you. We'll get one out to you. We'll let you try it and see what you think of it. So,
all right, well, buddy, listen, thank you. I'd love to meet you someday too. I'm going to get out that way, and I'd love to find a way to get out and meet you personally.
Yeah, no, I'd love that as well. I mean, whether you're coming through Cedar or whether we can meet at an event someday. Hopefully, one day we'll get out to where you're in Florida, right?
Yeah, we're in Delray Beach, Florida, down southern Florida by Miami.
Hopefully we'll get out there and do some like trail days or some of those things too. Get a little closer to you as well. So
I'd love that. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Paul. All right, everybody. Hope you loved that podcast. I really enjoyed the conversation there. I'm excited to see how the rest of his trips go, but what an awesome guy. And just a wonderful conversation. If you have not yet rated or reviewed the podcast, please do so right now. Stop what you're doing and go rate it. I'm going to read our most recent podcast review from Nate Jukes. This podcast, ! I discovered this podcast about a week ago and have loved the interviews with thru-hikers, FKT setters, etc. But as a has-been collegiate runner now with 5 kids under 8 years old, this was the episode I needed. Was the one where Tayson interviewed the guys that hiked 100 miles and summited Kings Peak with his 9-year-old. That would be Brandon Gilliam. I don't remember which episode that is, but you can go back and find that. It was one of my favorite episodes of all times too. So inspiring / educational / validating to hear about how to ease kids into hiking and instill them in a love for the outdoors. We will definitely be setting some goals to get out more with my kids instead of just dreaming of doing my own big pushes and or dreaming of the day when my kids are old enough to do big trips with me. Thank you so much, Tayson and Brandon and Tinsley, for sharing your experiences. Nate, really appreciate the review. And for those of you that have not yet left a review, please go do so now. If you have any questions, there are two ways that you can give us questions or feedback too. You can email us at liveultralightpodcast@gmail.com. That'll get forwarded into a work email. Or you can leave a comment on our YouTube channel, which is growing. We're seeing a lot more views over on YouTube. So if you want to drop comments over there, we can respond to those over on that side. So thanks for joining us today. That was an awesome interview with Paul. Really appreciated his time today. And make sure you guys are subscribed so that we can see you guys on the next episode.